embracing this type of behavior.
We welcome the next show right here in the Heart of America Talk Radio Network. It is a Thursday edition of the program, which means that it's time for our weekly speed date with Megan Barth of ReaganBabe.com. Megan will be joining us in about 1 hour or so as we continue to break down the trending news of the day through the prism of the past. This program is not just about history, it's about America's history, America's presence, and America's future. And you are invited to call at 929-477-3761, 929-477-3761. We are going to break down the fact-checking of the recent State of the Union address by the President on the heels of the Ralph Northam situation in Virginia and, of course, Lieutenant Governor Fairfax. Now it seems more and more things are emerging to support a narrative that was not necessarily there. You've also got the former ESPN host, Jamel Hill, making a possible assassination threat towards the President of the United States. We've also got a little Jeffrey Epstein update. He was, of course, the Clinton financier, and I guess you call him sex buddy. They used to fly together on the Lolita Express to the private island. All right, so Epstein's in some more hot water, as is apparently Joy Behar for dressing up as a beautiful African-American woman. And, of course, this is on the heels of Jimmy Fallon and Kimmel also, being found out to have previously done what the Virginia governor is accused of doing as well. And if that wasn't enough cultural appropriation, Elizabeth Warren claims that, there might be other documents out there where she made the claim that she is a direct descendant of Pocahontas, Hiawatha, Chief Tuscaloosa, for those of you that are local to the broadcast. Nonetheless, she's doubling down on the fact that she might have some engine in her. These stories, your calls, Megan Barth, and so much more on this edition of the Michael Hart Show. Taking just a kind of a quick look through, some interesting history. Because did you know it was actually on this date in 2013 that Mississippi officially certifies the 13th Amendment, becoming the last state to approve the abolition of slavery? It was actually formally ratified in Mississippi in 1995, but was not certified until about 5 or 6 years ago. The 13th, actually, the year 2013, on this date to be specific. Sometimes things just kind of get in the political quagmire, forget to get around to them. Same thing happened with North Dakota. It wasn't really a state till like a week and a half ago. But people don't know that either. But then again, we're also reconsidering whether or not to grant planethood to Pluto. So it's all good. So we got a lot to talk about today, but there is no top story. There's just so much going on that I can't even keep abreast of all of it. Some of it we're going to save to Megan's visit. I know she's going to want to chime in on this Epstein story, so we'll get into that here in just a little bit as well. So we got a lot to cover, including the recent State of the Union address, and we knew that it would draw a lot of questions. Many people in the press trying to, besmirch the president. I mean, even Van Jones. I mean, good grief. I mean, is there any maturity left on the left whatsoever? I mean, seriously. I mean, the bigotry, the racism, the hatred, the xenophobia, it's absolutely weird. I mean, you've got to be a bigot, racist, misogynist, woman assaulter in order to be a Democrat these days. Oh, and a child murderer. Let's throw a little bit more into the list. And you want to talk about psychotically incoherent? Psychotically incoherent is the descriptive that CNN's Van Jones calls the State of the Union address, incoherent speech with cookies and dog poop. Man, I tell you what, that's some high intellect going on right there. Psychotically incoherent. Well, the rest of us, Van, we understood exactly what the man was saying. 97% of Republicans approved of the speech. Almost 35% of Democrats approved of the speech, and 80% of independents thought it was a great speech. So, Van, I guess that technically makes you a dumbass, because the rest of us understood it was coherent. But then again, dumbassery seems to be all the rage in the Democrat Party these days. Media outlets even bent over backwards. This was Tuesday night to fact-check President Trump's State of the Union, but were accused of reaching out with a string of rapid response tweets and other analysis that came off as nitpicking. For example, just to give you one little taste, Politico was slammed on social media for declaring that Trump's claim that 1 in 3 women is sexually assaulted on the long journey north to America was only partly true, because it's not 1/3 or 1 in 3. It's 31%. So there. So it's not 33, it's 31. All right. So you see how childish and petulant they can become on the Democrat left, reaching out for anything. But it didn't end there. Of course, the Politico's GIF or GIF picket of the fact check was quickly radioed, getting away more negative comments than retweets or likes. One activist actually responded with a woman using a magnifying glass captioned, "Politico fact checkers desperately looking to find the difference between 31% and 1 in 3. Is there really that much difference between 99 cents and $1? Well, you can thank Politico for pointing up that he rounded out 2% in his quote. Really, quite frankly, unbelievably irrelevant, since women are, in fact, being assaulted all along that journey. Yeah. Meanwhile, NPR touted a fact check that critiqued Trump for praising the record number of women in Congress simply because he didn't mention that most of them are Democrats. Well, the video resurfaced as Democrats in Virginia. So what's so fascinating is that who cares? Because in the speech, he does not actually mention that they're Democrats, but he's simply making the point that there was more women. Exactly 1 century after Congress passes the constitutional amendment giving women the right to vote, we also have more women serving in Congress than any time before. Then NPR comes back with President Trump praised the record number of women in Congress, but that's almost entirely because of Democrats, not Trump's party. He wasn't making a partisan statement. He was simply stating there was more women in Congress in history at this time. The executive branch wouldn't take credit, or shouldn't take credit at least, for the elevation of people to the upper or lower chamber. A guy by the name of David Rutz, he's the Free Beacon managing editor, slammed what he called super petty NPR fact checkers, while one social media strategist by the name of Caleb Hull pointed out that Trump never claimed his party was responsible for the increase in women in Congress, as I have stated. Roots went on to write, God almighty, this is embarrassing, even for the sad annals of fact-checking. Media Research Center Vice President Dan Gaynor said yesterday that, quote, so-called fact checks are one of the most discredited ways journalists now attack the right. But in this age of derangement and outrage and victimhood, that 1 or 2% matters to people whose IQs linger at around the same numeric value. Tell you what, if you don't got the stuff to play the game, stay the hell off the field, because there's too many stupid people out there that think they're pundits. They are founded in a mix of liberal agenda and a desire to take snarky swipes at the president. This is also Gaynor speaking. Quote, in reality, their fact checks on journalism itself and journalism, is proven the worse for which its stupid allegations. Much as politically driven journalism has damaged the credibility of mainstream news media, so too polarized and politicized, fact-checking is destroying the credibility of the fact-checking industry. In the age of Trump, fact-checking too often is just a mask for political attacks. That, according to William A. Jacobson, the Cornell Law School professor. Now think about it. Cornell is not necessarily a bastion of conservative ideologies. Fact-checking too often is just a mask for political attacks, according to Jacobson. The fact-checkers, hell-bent to prove Trump wrong, have become just another tool of advocacy journalism. Back in the day, about 110 years ago, we had the introduction of what was commonly referred to as yellow journalism. Well, this is not yellow journalism, but it's some form of journalism that's not really journalism, which is why I've said so many times, I mean, you just can't believe the press. I mean, pardon me for saying it this way, but damn, when is that going to sink in? I'm not necessarily talking to you guys, but I mean the rest of the world. This upcoming Monday, I'm going to be making an address at the Greater Birmingham Republican Women's Luncheon, and we love speaking to groups. We love coming out and talking to your college group, your high school group. And by the way, I'm not nearly as salty in person. I understand my limits when I'm out in front of a public group because I don't want to feel the consternation of the eyes burning through me publicly. But that's what the presentation is on. That's what the Unknown America Project is about. Yeah, we use history as the proof, but the points we're making is that the media cannot be trusted with the narrative. I mean, I'm not gonna call out all media just like I wouldn't call out all cops or all of anybody for anything, because the majority of them, police officers, journalists, talk radio hosts, etc., do try to get things right. But at the end of the day, there are those out there, and unfortunately, the most grand or grandiose statements or comments, claims or accusations in this celebrity fuel world that we're in, they get the most attention. Why the hell do you think that Lady Gaga dresses up in a meat suit? Or the Kardashians have to bare their butt on a magazine cover? Or Madonna's got to go out on her I'm an old cougar but still sexy tours. And on and on and on it goes. Everybody's getting drunk and naked and making all kinds of outlandish comments because that's what it's taken to stand out these days. And yes, it does apply to the press. There are people out there that are famous for being infamous. And unfortunately, this culture eats it up. That's why we've got sexy nuns and cocktail waitress Halloween costumes for 8-year-old girls. To a degree, that's why you have the escalation in transgenderism. I'm sure some people feel like they were born in the wrong gender body, but others out there doing it because it's trendy. Look at the outlandish stunts on social media. And everybody's got the fastest car, the prettiest wife, the best-looking husband, the cutest dog. Oh, my God, we're a society of voyeurs. But we're also a society of political voyeurs. That's why Van Jones calls it out the State of the Union address as psychotically incoherent. Does he know what psychotically even means? The statement psychotically incoherent is in itself psychotically incoherent. But it sure as heck plays well Makes for a great soundbite. So now you've got the fact checkers out there, and because you put the word fact in front of it, it's a section of the book Unknown America that gets into some funny sports. And there's a football team in Pennsylvania, I believe it is. The name of the team, the mascot is the Fighting Planets, like Jupiter. And I make a comment in the book that putting the word fighting in front of any other just random word is no way to name a sports team. The Fighting Microphones, the Fighting Ponies, the Fighting Violets, and that's another team that's out there. Just like putting the word fact before checker doesn't make it factual. Putting the word fighting before a planet doesn't make it a football team. But that's exactly what they do to exploit the low intellect of many people on the left and, quite frankly, millennials on the right that don't get it. It's somewhat of a task to read between the lines when you're reading between the lines. And somebody made a point in some media yesterday. Actually, it was Newt Gingrich. Now I think about it, a little senior moment there. Made a comment that it's one thing to read the president's speech, but then you have to watch the president's speech because they're two entirely different. They're different events, if you will. They're different emotions. They're different experiences. Many times over the course of the last couple of years, our good buddy Megan Barth of Reagan Babe has made a similar observation that when there is a big-time speech, don't know if she did it this time around, and doesn't always apply to the State of the Union, but that she prefers to read the speech before viewing the speech. So she doesn't do that every time. But she does it because they are two different experiences, because it's the way it's packaged. That's one of the reasons why, if you're on social media, the videos that you post or the memes that you post typically would get more likes than just copy or statuses that you post, because people want interaction. They don't just want the passivity of words. And people within the press know this. So they can emotion it up. They can create videos and memes and GIFs around it so they can sell the narrative as many times as they possibly can that Donald Trump is full of crap, despite the fact that time and time again, research has borne out the reality that he tells the truth the majority of the time, at least as he understands it, but that the State of the Union address was full of truth. New York Times White House correspondent Annie Carney criticized Trump for saying they came down from heaven when quoting Holocaust survivor Joshua Kaufman, who was a prisoner at Dachau. Then she said Jews don't believe in heaven. She said that in a tweet. Jews don't believe in the Messiah. You nitwit. They absolutely do believe in a heavenly Father and life after death. The real question here is for all the DAs that work in this industry currently. Not only is there a matter of life after death, but is there a life after yellow journalism? Inquiring minds want to know. The magazine for the American landowner is a proud supporter of the Michael Hart Show. Currently, they're offering an exclusive subscription price for listeners of the Michael Hart Show. So click on the subscribe button on landreport.com and enter the code HARTSHOW at checkout and receive a 1-year discount on America's #1 land magazine. You'll get a full year of the Land Report, which normally goes for $59, for only $15. That's a 75% savings off the cover price. Again, that's promo code HARTSHOW at checkout of thelandreport.com, and make sure to check out the Land Report on Facebook if you love land.
Hey now, it's Andrew McLean here to remind you about my podcast, Over the Line. This is the podcast your mom warned you about, even though your mom doesn't really know what a podcast is. You really need to check it out. We have some great guests, amazing interviews, and we break down the political headlines of the day. If you want to be able to stay informed, entertained, and be able to win an argument on Facebook against those commie hippies, check out OverTheLineShow.com to listen to the latest show, check out some amazing merch, and see what's going on behind the scenes. Over the Line is also available on your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and plenty more to make it as easy to listen to the show as possible. Again, make sure you go to OverTheLineShow.com, sign up for the newsletter, and keep up with the show, whatever we do, wherever we go, and keep yourself informed. That's OverTheLineShow.com. In memory of Harambe, Danny Williams, and Andrew Breitbart.
It's not right versus left. It's us versus them. It's the Michael Hart Show.
Yeah, it is us versus them, too. I used to say that it was left, not so much left versus right, but us versus them. I'm starting to think it's just smart people versus stupid people, because there's an awful lot of them out there. Maybe the word stupid is a little bit too heavy. Maybe I should just use the words gullible, naive, infantile, in denial, infantile in denial. There could be a bumper sticker somewhere in that. All right, so we've got Elizabeth Warren, who's apologizing for more Native American claims, seeming to, co-op or appropriate that culture. And then, of course, we still have the debates out of Virginia as to whether or not that Democrat governor was in blackface in 1984 from his medical school yearbook. Many people are seeking his ouster while supporting the accusations leveled against our Lieutenant Governor Fairfax. They're supporting Fairfax, but they want the bigot out because apparently being in blackface, well, it's racist. I mean, that's what a lot of people on the left are saying. A lot of Democrats are saying it's racist. But what about Jimmy Kimmel or Fallon? While Northam's yearbook page and bizarre press conference led the national news and were mocked by several late-night hosts, they were left unmentioned by Kimmel and Fallon, both who have worn blackface on comedy skits. Now, Kimmel wore blackface on numerous occasions, impersonating NBA Hall of Famer Karl Malone, as well as former daytime talk show host Oprah Winfrey on a Comedy Central series, The Man Show. Fallon has also appeared in blackface during his days on Saturday Night Live, impersonating Chris Rock. Both Kimmel and Fallon have focused recent monologues on the Super Bowl and, of course, Donald Trump, because that's just the way you do things these days. Now, this story came out a couple days ago. Why is nobody talking about these two Democrat supporters? And what about Joy Behar? The champion for the little man, the downtrodden, the oppressed. Yeah. Then there's that long-forgotten video clip from The View, which resurfaced yesterday, that showed Joy Behar explaining a Halloween costume when she was 29 years of age. And quite frankly, in this clip, which is several years old, just blowing the whole thing off. But now it's trendy to be outraged. You know why? Because if you're not outraged and kneeling and denouncing the United States of America and be a gay baby killer, you're no longer patriotic, y'all.
In the New York Times, they had an op-ed piece in praise of naturally curly hair. They say that it's making a comeback. Are you excited?
I've always had curly hair.
That is a feminist statement.
Huh?
What do you...
Is that you, Joy?
Oh, you know this picture.
Joy, is that you?
Yeah.
Joy, that is you?
Yes.
Wait.
No, I know.
Joy.
I was so cute. How cute I was.
Are you my auntie, Joy?
No. That is me.
My word. What year is it? Circa
I
what?
was 29. It was a Halloween party. I went as a beautiful African woman.
Oh, yeah, you ain't black.
But that's my hair. That's my hair.
You can be, yeah, but it is. So the whole point of
Why
this is
are you
that curly
upset with
hair
me
is
now?
coming back. I thought
That is me.
Did you have tanning lotion on?
A little, I had makeup that was a little bit darker than my skin. It's good. But that's my actual hair, though.
I love it, though.
Okay, so she went to a Halloween costume as a beautiful African woman. She went to a Halloween costume as a beautiful African woman. Typically, Halloween costumes have a measure of satire or mockery attached to them, do they not? Sometimes they're ghoulish. But adults don't typically dress, if they're going to a Halloween costume, in ghoulish attire. They will typically go as, I don't know, a banana, a jailbird, think the Hamburglar. So she dresses up in a costume. Her costume was a black woman, Joy Behar. Nobody's calling her out. She rips into Trump for being a racist on an almost daily basis. She's a Democrat liberal socialist that financially and publicly supports the Democrat Party and their platform. She calls all Trump supporters bigots and racists. And Joy Behar goes to a Halloween costume party as a black woman. I just thought I'd let that hang out there for a while, because the hypocrisy is palpable. How many people out there do you think are going to be talking about this today? Now, is it life-changing? No. But the reason that it matters is because this is a woman that, along with her co-host, constantly berates Donald Trump as being a bigoted, racist, xenophobic, misogynistic, And I can't even think of all the other words, all the other isms they've thrown his way. But these are the kind of stories that the left-leaning media doesn't even run with. Now, a couple of days ago, Rachel Maddow, that cute little boy over on MSNBC, got lambasted for leaving some key elements out of a story on the Trump son and the Russian investigation. She just omitted the facts entirely. Gave her view. Went all Geraldo Rivera and Al Capone's vault. Kudos to someone on the left that actually pointed that out and challenged her. Yeah. You see, it's popular to denounce Donald Trump. It's popular. What's the Latin term? Vox populi. It's popular to voice your opinions, which are seeming to defend the underdog. We love underdogs in this country. We love a good comeback. Years and years ago, for those of you that are not entirely up to speed with this region, we are coming to you live from the state of Alabama. I moved to Alabama 50 years ago. My parents obviously moved me here. I didn't hitchhike when I was 7. I didn't start that until I was at least 10 years old. But my parents brought me down here when I was 7. And I became an Alabama fan. And within a few months, I changed my mind and became an Auburn fan. Don't want to go into political sports chat. Now, my daughter's graduated from Auburn. My sister graduated from Auburn. I've been to Auburn games many times. I've been supporting the Auburn Tigers, again, now for the better part of 49 or 50 years. Why did I become an Auburn fan? I had no attachment to the school whatsoever at that point in time because they were an underdog, because they were the redheaded stepchild. And I'm the kind of person, I'm always going to pull for the guy who's behind to pull it through. Yes, I hate when they lose a game, but the joy I feel when they win one, especially when they have no business winning, is overwhelmingly euphoric to me and a lot of Auburn fans. And that's not just us. It applies to football fans and baseball fans and gymnastic fans and soccer fans all across the country. We like to see the little guy win. But, you know, the reality of it is that there are people in this country that exploit that notion. They will champion the rights of other groups, even when they don't believe it themselves. And that's why you get the Joy Behars of the world. It sounds great on a TV show, certainly helps sell advertising, but it's so asinine when you break it down and you start to apply, which we're doing here, by the way, you start to apply the reality of the past. Now, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Dianne Feinstein, Barbara Boxer, they've all come out in the past in support of a wall. Bill Clinton, in support of a wall or a barrier. Nobody on the left seems to accept that. It's almost like, well, they don't matter. This is a different time. Why is it different? That kind of mindset is the same kind of mindset that allows Christians to justify sin because it's different now. Or for the anti-Second Amendment crowd. Well, it's different now. They used muzzles, and it took forever to load, and they were hunting bull moose. No, that was a political party. Oh, they were hunting the other kind of moose. This notion that things change. But you know something? What's interesting is the governor of Virginia says, well, you know, that was a long time ago. Joy Behar, well, that was a long time ago, then, you know, things were different then. But Brett Kavanaugh, that doesn't matter. We can go back to his 3rd grade Christmas party, or better yet, the Valentine's Day party, when he didn't give one of those cute little nasty sugar hearts to the ugly fat girl. The weaponization of data and information in this country is overwhelming, and the way that you weaponize it is you change it. You change it to fit your own narrative. Now, this particular clip of Ms. Behar resurfaced just yesterday. The clip was shared by the rap media editor, a guy by the name of John Levine. Behar again seen discussing a New York Times op-ed about the resurgence of curly hair. Behar showed, and this is not the resurgence in 2016, this goes back to when she was 29 years old. Behar showed her colleagues in the audience a picture of herself with curly hair when she was 29. The co-host, as you heard, appeared surprised by her drastically different looks, with Raven Simone, former co-host, asking, Raven was on the program at this time, "Joy, are you black?" To which Behar replies, "I was so cute." So I'm mimicking an African-American woman with an afro, dark makeup, and I was cute. The only thing Behar didn't say was, "I thought about dancing a jig." Behar explained the picture was taken at a Halloween party where she dressed up as a beautiful African woman. When asked if she had tanning lotion on, Behar responded that she was wearing makeup that was darker than my skin. Think this story's going anywhere today? Think MSNBC or CNN's going to report it? If they do, they'll give it a brief nod. No real desire to exploit it for what it's worth. Rampant hypocrisy. Do with it what you want. The folks on the left, I'm not saying Republicans are perfect, not by a long shot. I'm not saying Christians are perfect, not by a long shot. Personally, I am fallen. I struggle with my demons and my temptations every day of the week. But there definitely seems to be an overwhelmingly greater preponderance of evidence on the left that your politicians are willing to lie to you to exploit your support. And not just in the darkest or quietest or smallest of circles, but on some of the largest playing fields in America. Whether it's The View, or The Tonight Show, or a football field, or ESPN. It happens throughout this nation. And it is stunning to me, the willingness of people to, I suppose, enjoy being dumbed down. Then you got this little ditty from Elizabeth Warren yesterday, once again forced to apologize for claiming Native American ancestry on a registration card for her Texas State bar. She was doing this 30 years ago. And therein lies the narrative. I guess there are people out there, the high drama crowd. I don't know if they're afraid of the truth. I don't know if they don't care about the truth. You ask people on the street that hate Donald Trump, they can't give you an answer. Not one that's credible. They'll say things like he's a racist, but then again, the racism on the left is exceedingly thick. I mean, you do realize the Democrats are the ones that gave us the KKK. You do realize that the Democrats are the ones that gave us bombings in Birmingham, Alabama. Before we get to the calls here, and I'm going to do that momentarily, somebody some weeks ago asked me about, and I don't even know why they were making this point, but they were called, well, this was actually the Compromise of 1877. And I'm not really certain why this particular issue was brought up during a conversation that I was having on a TV program, because quite frankly, it wasn't relevant or germane to the conversation. But essentially, the Compromise of 1877 was an informal, unwritten deal that settled the intensely disputed 1876 presidential election. It resulted in the federal government pulling the last troops out of the South and formally ended the Reconstruction era. Through the compromise, Republican Rutherford B. Hayes actually won the White House over Democrat, a guy by the name of Samuel Tilden, on the understanding that Hayes would remove federal troops whose support was essential for the survival of Republican state governments in South Carolina, Florida, and Louisiana. The compromise involved Democrats who controlled the House of Representatives, allowing the decision of the Electoral Commission to take effect. Now, Ulysses S. Grant, who was already outgoing, had removed the soldiers from Florida. Hayes removed the remaining troops from South Carolina and Louisiana. As soon as the troops left, many white Republicans also left, and the Redeemer Democrats took control. They already dominated other state governments in the South, and what was agreed to is contested and has been throughout history. Black Republicans felt betrayed as they lost power and were subjected to discrimination and harassment by suppressing their vote. By 1905, most black men were effectively disenfranchised by state legislatures in every southern state. Bottom line here, to paraphrase, to settle the dispute over the White House in 1876, the Republicans pulled out of the Deep South, pulled out troops out of Louisiana and South Carolina. This ended as, in a formal sense, Reconstruction. The Redeemer Democrats take over. You see the amplification of Jim Crow laws, and many Democrats, or blacks in this case, are compelled to become Democrats or else. Get it? Capiche? Google it. Then it becomes a generational manifestation of the support of a party that it doesn't give a damn about you. Not a damn. So much so, they will mock you in public and dress up like you to entertain their cracker friends at a Halloween party, and you still refuse to get it. 929-477-3761. Let's see what's on Clark's mind. Hello, my brother.
Hey, now, how are you?
I'm ramped up.
Well, that's the way to be in the morning time. So let's see. The Democrats brought us the Klan. Did you notice the outfits that the women were wearing on the Democrat side?
Yeah, the hoodless robes?
Yes. I mean, all they needed to do was reach behind and pull the hood over, and they were in full regalia, Michael. Is that the Women's Klan Auxiliary or something? I don't know.
I guess you call it. Yeah, you call it what? Daughters of the Clannery?
I don't know. Is that culture appropriation? And while we're on the culture appropriation, how long before the Simpsons have to get rid of Disco Stu because he wears an afro?
Oh my gosh, good point. Yeah, maybe they can cornrow it or something. Nah, that wouldn't work.
I don't know. When are we going to have to burn all our Elvis records because of cultural appropriation?
Clark, you speaketh more than thou knoweth. Because you're right. You are right. But then again, when in a land where there is the blending of genders, the neutralization of sexuality, why not just apply it to every aspect of the culture?
Well, Well, I don't know. Maybe we could just say we self-identify as something and nobody could call it cultural appropriation anymore.
Yeah.
Would that work?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, in one moment people want to come to America and be Americans, and the next day they want to come to America and coexist under their own flag. It's like all of a sudden America becomes this world strip mall parking lot where people of all creeds, colors, races, and genders come to congregate on a Friday night and drink beer. I mean, it's just the damnedest thing to me, Clark. What is happening, and how many people in this country? I mean, even look at the Super Bowl ads and how many of corporate America capitulated to the demands of the great unintellectual. What is going on around here? And then, you have the thing like Elizabeth Warren and Joy Behar, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel. They're coming out and trying to support these minorities while similarly and at the exact same time completely mocking the very people they say they support. And then the people just go, well, it's all Trump's fault. For the love.
Well, while we're on Elizabeth for just a moment, I think we keep skipping the biggest point with her. There had to be a person, I don't know who they would be. Was it Harvard Law that she lied about her heritage to get into? Is that where she initially said
I think it was Harvard, yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
She's done so much I can't even keep up with the lies.
She claimed that heritage so she could have the advantage of getting in there. There was a person more qualified than she was that did not get in. I have yet to hear anybody address that point. But,
Yeah, it's a good observation.
But anyway, I don't know. Man, I better get back after it. I'm looking forward to you and Megan.
All right. Thanks, Hart. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the support.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. I need to take a break. I don't know if I need an aspirin or maybe a shot of something stronger. But this is one of the reasons why we ask you guys to spread the information, the news of this program around, because people need to be aware of it. I mean, I'm sorry, folks. I mean, I hate to sound so caustic at times, but darn, it matters, does it not? I mean, is the craziness not getting crazier every day? Are you not seeing it on the news and your social media? Are you not seeing it in your relationships and out on the streets and in the malls and in the churches? Are we not seeing it everywhere? I'm out here with you, fighting the fight. But one thing I do need you to do, if you're listening to the program, particularly listening to it live, hit that share button on wherever you're listening to it at, or tell somebody about the podcast later on. Just go to Hart, HARTofAmerica.net, and you can download the podcast all the time. Share them with your liberal friends. I don't hate liberals. My family's full of them. But I certainly hate what they think, and I hate the ignorance that has been, well, frankly, beaten and indoctrinated to them. We have a responsibility, Christians. We have a responsibility to save those that are unsaved. If they're not going to believe in the Lord Jesus Christ or the power in having a relationship with Him, how in the world are they going to believe us if we don't continually witness to them? And there is an aspect of witness that is political. And if you don't think that's true, you better whip that Bible back out. And don't you dare level the argument, well, I'm just going to pray about it. Not when the Lord has given us the tools, the armaments. Come on, onward, Christian soldiers. Does this country matter to you? Then support this program and share this program and stick around because we're coming back with this program. Hart of America and the Michael Hart Show is brought to you in part by the Unknown America Project. Unknown America, myths and little-known oddities about the greatest nation on earth, explores many of the falsehoods and fallacies and revisions in American history that impact the beliefs and the thoughts of many people in this country today. So if you'd like to learn some of the most enduring myths that have been perpetrated on the American public for the last 100-plus years in this country, go check out the book at heartofamerica.net. That's heartofamerica.net. And pick up a copy of Unknown America. It comes out to you absolutely no shipping, be autographed, and we'll even send you a copy of the United States Constitution as our way of saying thanks. So support the Unknown America Project by simply going to theunknownamerica.com, and thank you for your support.
Does your home have a water problem? Drainage around your home can cause all kinds of headaches. Disease-causing mold, cracks in walls, foundation failure, even roof leaks. At Alabama Water Management, we know that problems can often be fixed from where the water is coming from, outside. Our approach is less invasive and less expensive. So before you spend thousands on a potentially unnecessary waterproofing system, call Alabama Water Management for a free evaluation. Alabama Water Management. Don't waterproof, water prevent.
Find Alabama Water Management on Facebook or on their website at ALAH2O.com.
Hey now, it's Andrew McLean here to remind you about my podcast, Over the Line. This is the podcast your mom warned you about, even though your mom doesn't really know what a podcast is. You really need to check it out. We have some great guests, amazing interviews, and we break down the political headlines of the day. If you want to be able to stay informed, entertained, and be able to win an argument on Facebook against those commie hippies, check out OverTheLineShow.com to listen to the latest show. Check out some amazing merch and see what's going on behind the scenes. Over the Line is also available on your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and plenty more to make it as easy to listen to the show as possible. Again, make sure you go to OverTheLineShow.com, sign up for the newsletter, and keep up with the show, whatever we do, wherever we go, and keep yourself informed. That's OverTheLineShow.com. In memory of Harambe, Danny Williams, and Andrew Breitbart.
Hey, welcome back. We've got a lot more stuff to talk about today. Going to be joined here in just a few moments, with any luck at all, by Megan Barth of ReaganBabe.com. Just yesterday, Elizabeth Warren once again was forced to apologize for claiming Native American ancestry on a 1986 registration card for the Texas State Bar, and left the door open that there may be more documents out there with a similar claim. This controversy appears to be difficult for her to be put behind her, because she had been planning to formally launch her presidential campaign Saturday. A reporter on Wednesday asked if she would drop out of the race, and she responded, "Thank you. Want a beer?" All right, do that for him. Fox News' Shepard Smith called Warren's actions cultural appropriation. A Boston Globe columnist wrote flatly, "With the latest revelation, Elizabeth Warren can't beat Donald Trump." Questions about her heritage date to at least 2012, when her Republican opponent seized on the issue during her first Senate campaign to wrongly argue that she identified as a Native American to advance her career. Warren, who apologized last Friday to the Cherokee Nation for revealing the results of a DNA test last autumn, showed just a trace amount of Native American lineage, would ask if there's any other documents where she claimed the ancestry. You know, it's funny that any man or any woman bears more hormonal traits of the opposite sex than Elizabeth Warren is Indian. So she responds, so all I know is during this time period, this is consistent with what I did. It was based upon my understanding from my family stories, but family stories are not the same as tribal citizenship. The registration card was first reported by the Washington Post, and Fox News has verified the document, which marks the first known instance of Warren claiming Native American ancestry on an official document. Hillary Chabot, a reporter at the Boston Herald, wrote that the senator is looking to distance herself from the scandal, but brought up the wealth issue as another potential headache for Warren. Because, after all, at the end of the day, she is worth millions of dollars. The good news about Elizabeth Warren, and it's certainly good news for her, is that there are no reports of her ever attending a Halloween party with an afro. Can you only imagine? And over here to the, wow, she really is another DA desk. Former ESPN host Jamel Hill deleted a text in which describing what a Democrat lawmaker should say at President Trump's State of the Union address. She jokingly referenced a phrase uttered by an assassin before Malcolm X was gunned down in the mid-1960s. It all started when Showtime's Deus Nice tweeted that he would like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to interrupt the speech by Trump yelling, "Whose man is this?" Hill, who famously called Trump a white supremacist before she left ESPN and is now a writer for The Atlantic, she responded to Nice with her own version of what the lawmaker, speaking about Ocasio-Cortez, should shout. Nah, she got to yell, "Get your hand out of my pocket." And I'm reading it the way it's written. Get your hand out of my pocket. That's a tweet from Hill. While not everybody picked up on the comment, some history buffs realized that it was a reference to assassination. This statement is a reference to what one of Malcolm X's assassins yelled out before they killed the civil rights leader. Hill deleted the tweet after Newsbusters and other critics put a spotlight on it, but media watchdog sites published the image of the anti-Trump message. The actual message reads, "Glad you asked. When I tweeted, 'Get your hand out of my pocket,' in no way was I suggesting any physical harm to the president, but yet that's exactly what you were inferring. I've used this phrase many times in my Twitter history." Really? Okay. So one person, Smiley Carr, came back and said, "Well, then why do you delete your tweets?" Then she came back with, "Well, let me be clear. I have often disagreed with many of the president's policies, his behavior and rhetoric, but I would never call for violence against him or any person. I apologize for breathing life into such an absurd assumption." Sounds like somebody's preparing for a visit from the Secret Service. The Atlantic did not immediately respond when asked for comment. According to Free Beacon reporter Alex Griswold, the joke here is that AOC, Alexandria Cortez, should have participated in the assassination of the president. Radio host and author Clay Travis goes on to write, so Jamel Hill has moved on from calling the president a white supremacist to now rooting for him to be assassinated during the State of the Union. The love, the tolerance, the acceptance, the understanding. It's absolutely heartwarming, is it not? Hey, why don't we all just take a collective breath, fill up those coffee pots with, well, whatever it is that gets you through your day, because I'm going to do the same thing as we prepare for our weekly speed date with Megan Barth coming up in about 2 minutes. You're listening to The Michael Hart Show right here on the Heart of America Broadcast Network, brought to you in part by the Unknown America Project and our friends over at LibertyOneTech.com. Check them out for all your cyber needs at LibertyOneTech.com and tell them you heard about them right here on the Heart of America Broadcasting Network. Heart of America and the Michael Hart Show is brought to you in part by the Unknown America Project. Unknown America, Myths and Little-Known Oddities about the greatest nation on earth, explores many of the falsehoods and fallacies and revisions in American history that impact the beliefs and the thoughts of many people in this country today. So if you'd like to learn some of the most enduring myths that have been perpetrated on the American public for the last 100 plus years in this country, go check out the book at heartofamerica.net. That's heartofamerica.net. And pick up a copy of Unknown America. It comes out to you absolutely no shipping, be autographed, and we'll even send you a copy of the United States Constitution as our way of saying thanks. So support the Unknown America Project by simply going to theunknownamerica.com, and thank you for your support.
Anyone can tell you the news.
Welcome, Diamond and Silk.
Mark Zuckerberg will end up and it's going to be a face without the book. Book without the face.
Hey, Megan, how are you?
Now they're chipping away at the normalization of pedophilia, and the left is embracing this type of behavior.
Welcome, Dinesh D'Souza.
I know I ticked him off. In a certain sense, it's a giant up yours to Obama, and that's why the left is freaking out over it.
Jack Kennedy and LBJ, Clinton, and the double standard from the left.
Yeah, I love how the left does nothing but push the most bizarre practices down our throats and up our tailpipes.
It takes a real man to tackle the hot issues that really matter.
Michael Hart is the man of this house.
Welcome to the Michael Hart Show.
Hey, welcome back. It is that time for our weekly speed date with none other than Megan Barth of ReaganBabe.com. Megan joins us today to give her thoughts on the State of the Union, the state of the wall, the state of immigration, the state of Jeffrey Epstein, and generally just the state of confusion here in America. We welcome her into this edition of the Michael Hart Show. How are you, Megan?
Doing well, Michael. How are you?
I'm just okie dokie. All right, lot to talk about. Let's start with the obvious, the State of the Union address. Thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways, what do you think?
Big thumbs up, 2 big thumbs up. And one of the reasons why I loved it, and obviously 76% of the people watching it, according to the CBS poll, did like it as well. And about the same amount of people polled also agreed with his immigration policies. Fantastic. We haven't lost the country yet. But what I loved about the State of the Union was not only did President Trump reaffirm all the successes that we never hear about, which were really well represented in his guest list in the gallery, but he outlined exactly what the Democrats' platform is going into 2020 and beyond. He pointed out that they are a party of socialists. He pointed out that they are a party of infanticide. He pointed out that they are a party of open borders, and he also pointed out that they are a party that is probably one of the most selfish group of people I've ever witnessed, when they can't stand for veterans, yet they can stand and cheer for themselves. And so this spectacle, which the ladies in white decided to display as far as a solidarity with women, really was not only a bad photo op, but the optics were really displayed in their actions, not in what they wore. You had President Trump talking about women rescued, tens of thousands of women rescued from human trafficking, and they couldn't stand for those women. I thought they were supposed to stand for women. So I think really it not only exposed Trump's successes that he has had in the last 2 years, it really exposed the heart and the soul and the minds of the Democrat Party.
Well, what's interesting is you're absolutely right about that. And then we got into this story. I know that you've also been following the story out of Virginia and the blackface of Governor Ralph Northam. And then, of course, we learned a day or two after that Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon were staying away from that story because they had appeared in blackface. And then there was a video that we played just moments before you came on, Joy Behar, when she was 29 years old, going to a Halloween party dressed up as a, quote, beautiful African woman and justifying it while laughing in 2016 on an episode of The View. The reason I bring that up, Megan, is the hypocrisy that resides on the left is so overwhelmingly palpable that I don't understand why it doesn't seem to permeate the thick skulls of many people on the left, because Politico and NPR have already been challenged by several other media outlets for their fact-checking. I mean, what is this delusional fantasy world the Democrats live in, and how in the world can they possibly lecture us on our apparent racist views when every day they go out of their way to prove how racist they are? I can't get my mind around this, which is why your attendance here today is fortuitous, because hopefully you can help me understand.
Well, I'm kind of glad that the ladies did show up in white sans hoods, because it just reminded everybody that they are the party and always have been the party of the Ku Klux Klan. Also, we cannot forget that one of their most widely popular, I guess if you would say, senators was Robert Byrd. So popular that Bill Clinton gave his eulogy, as well as others, commending Robert Byrd on his political career. And Robert Byrd was the Grand Kleagle of the KKK. So we can go far back, and I'm glad the Democrats really want to talk about racism and blackface during Black History Month, because I think that this is the perfect time to expose the Democrats for exactly who they are. And the bigotry and the racism has always resided within the left. They were founded, by plenty of racists, and they elected plenty of racists, including the Grand Kleagle of the KKK, who was one of the most powerful senators.
Yeah,
so
and where did he served, what, like 40 years in Congress?
Correct. And Bill Clinton in his eulogy said that, well, he had to do what he had to do to get elected. Oh, so he had to be a Grand Kleagle of the KKK to get elected?
Yeah, the same argument can be made for George Wallace standing in the schoolhouse door at Alabama some years ago. It's mind-numbing. Why there is a single Black Democrat in this country any longer is just, I can't get my head around it, Megan. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. They are exploited. You've got, and right there in our very eyes, right before the entire country, and then you have just complete jackwagons, like Jamil Hill making comments about the State of the Union and making a reference to the assassination, of civil rights leader Malcolm X in a tweet, and then backtracks it. Oh, that's not what I meant. And it's just the hatred and the fact-checking, the bigotry on the left, and for the love, I do not understand what it is that people cannot get through their head, that this false narrative that is created, I guess it's just to exploit their power and their influence. I mean, I can't think of any other reason for it. But in a larger sense, it confuses me and confounds me why we can't seem to get that point made to people.
Well, I think we're slowly chipping away at the narrative, even though it's been much too long. And I think that it took somebody like Donald Trump to be so hated, really, by the press as well as the Democrats to expose
That's a good point.
their manufactured lies. I mean, there's a great clip that I need to turn into an MP3 of Nancy Pelosi talking to a press pool and explain to them how a smear works. And she says that it's a political tactic. They create the smear, and then they hand it over to the press for the press to merchandise the smear. So when you use the press, and you have the power to use the press, and the press is a very powerful agency, when you have the press that is merchandising smears as facts, you basically are creating a population of a nation of Stockholm Syndrome victims, right? So you have people believing something that is not true. But what I loved was Maxine Waters, right before the State of the Union. She came out and she's like, I don't want anybody to watch the State of the Union. I don't even think she was there, along with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And we can talk about that in a minute. But Maxine Waters did not want specifically the black people in her district or her black constituents or fellow black Americans to see the State of the Union, because she certainly did not want to see the guests that Donald Trump invited and hear about the successes that he has created through policy and legislation, as well as just getting the hell out of the way, that has created the lowest black unemployment, that has granted clemency to a black woman for an overcharge, really, of a low drug offense. And then, of course, he released one other black convicts under the First Step Act. And the First Step Act is really underreported because it would overturn what I would consider a racist policy of Bill Clinton, which was the Three Strikes Act, which improperly imprisoned more black men than any other sort of piece of legislation. And so Maxine Waters does not want her slaves off of her plantation. And when you look at Maxine Waters' plantation, it is ridden with rats. It is ridden with garbage. It is ridden with homelessness, poverty, and now typhus, which is a airborne illness, I believe, generated by the fleas that are on rats and that you find in garbage.
Megan, you said so much, and I've got so many other things I want to kind of bring up today, and you're spot on, as you always are. I don't typically, because we don't have a lot of time, I don't typically take calls when you're on the air with us, but I do have a regular listener that I believe wants to get in on this conversation. So if you don't mind, I'm going to bring Clark into this for just a moment. Hey, Clark, you got a question or comment for Megan? Clark, can you hear me? Hey, Clark. Well, I think Clark might be looming around out there somewhere. He has called back into the broadcast. Clark, can you hear me okay? Because I can hear the background. All right, I'm going to put Clark back on hold. It's certainly possible. And by the way, if that's the case, it'll be my very first butt right here on the program. And we had it together. How about that? It's a political menage a trois. I'll put him back over here on hold very quickly. All right, I want to get into something. Speaking of menage a trois, I want to get into this DOJ to investigate, because I know you love talking about Jeffrey Epstein, and I want to talk a bit about this plea bargain awarded to Clinton-linked Epstein by watchdogs. Say the probe is tainted. The Justice Department of Office of Professional Responsibility, otherwise known as the OPR, has opened an investigation into a plea bargain awarded in 2007 by a top Florida prosecutor who now serves as President Trump's Secretary of Labor to a wealthy Clinton-connected financier and sex offender accused of abusing underage girls. The watchdog group says the DOJ Independent Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, should be spearheading the probe rather than OPR, which is run by internal agency lawyers. Earlier this week, Horowitz urged lawmakers to pass legislation that would enable the IG's office to take control of probes into possible prosecutorial misconduct. So I'm curious as what you think about the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, a story that I'm not even as interested in the investigation as I am in sharing with the listeners that a former president of the United States used to travel on the Lolita Express with Jeffrey Epstein, a supporter, for the purposes of having sex with underage girls on remote islands. And they hear that story and they just go, but here it is, right here in this DOJ investigation, proving exactly that point.
Yeah, this story has been talked about for years, but of course the mainstream media really doesn't run with it. Why? Because they are more interested in merchandising smears that are levied against the Republican Party. So the mainstream media's job was to protect Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein's story had charges of at least 40 different women, underage girls, really, I shouldn't even say women, as young as 14 from around the world that were chartered to his private island. And then he, of course, would take the private jet with Bill Clinton to the private island. I'm sure that they weren't talking about world peace or doing some sort of peace summit. Bill Clinton has never really answered to these allegations. He's never been forced to answer to these allegations. But the interesting thing is who handled this case, Robert Mueller. So this all goes back to Robert Mueller, whereby Jeffrey Epstein got basically a slap on the wrist. He was given some jail time, but for 16 hours a day, he could leave the facility and I guess go to work and do whatever he wanted. He was sequestered from the general population in this white-collar criminal jail, if you will, prison, and basically just was given 3 squares on the behalf of taxpayers and a roof over his head, which was of course different than the mansion he lived in, but he still only had to just basically sleep there for 8 hours a day. And so does the punishment fit the crime? No. Who benefited from the leniency? The prosecutorial, was it prosecutorial misconduct, or was it much wider web of misconduct by the state or by the government? Because they are the ones that handled this case, and guess whose lap it falls on? Robert Mueller.
It's just amazing, and it's one of those stories that you and I have talked about this for 2.5 years now. It's amazing how long you and I have been doing this together, but I just don't think enough people realize that the seediness of politics is absolutely legitimate, and that people just don't realize that Clinton is guilty of these things. And how many of the people on the left, whether it's the Behars of the world or the Maxine Waters or whoever, how many of them have just completely just lost all sensibility as it relates to being truthful with their constituents? They are the dregs of society, Megan, and yet so many people cannot seem to see that. But you had all these people pre-State of the Union that were touting Democrat socialist policies and the upcoming, ideas of Alexandria Cortez. And now, just literally 30, 40 minutes ago, Pelosi is denouncing Alexandria Cortez's Green New Deal. And so now that we are post-State of the Union and getting on with all the talk about impeachment and whatnot, even Pelosi is coming out and basically saying, no, this can't possibly work. Now, it doesn't mean she won't entertain some thoughts about it, but all of a sudden, post-State of the Union, now that we're post the optic of the women in white, now all of a sudden Pelosi is, I don't know if she's moving away from Cortez or whatever the case may be, but it's getting ugly in the Democratic halls of the House of Representatives and the Senate. And so yet again, for all of her talk about supporting green initiatives, Pelosi that is, now that we're past the State of the Union, with the shutdown looming, she all of a sudden changes course yet again.
Well, I think Pelosi understands the political process better than a bartender out of Yorktown, who was formerly named Sandy. And Sandy's ideas might poll well in the socialist boroughs of New York, but they don't poll well in Middle America. And when you look at the reaction to the State of the Union, when you have 77% of people agreeing with Donald Trump on immigration policy, and then you have a huge swing in independence, Nancy knows where the bread is buttered, and that's in independence, peeling off the independence. because there's not enough socialists in this country yet. Now, Generation Z, there's plenty of socialists, and those are the millennials. So God help us. Maybe socialist ideas will poll well across the country. But as long as we have the Electoral College, we will keep socialism at bay. And so you look at the policies that the Democrat Party are championing, and they're not polling to the majority of Americans, whether that is infanticide. Thankfully, we're not there, and we hopefully will never be there. But 80% of people polled don't agree with abortion past the first trimester. So the policies of the Democrat Party, the further radical they get, the further away they get from the mainstream of America, of the majority and plurality of voters. And so Nancy Pelosi realizes this, and she realizes that she's not going to get socialism in all in one bite. And that's why socialism or progressivism or liberalism, whatever you want to call it, is incremental. That's why, for example, you take Obamacare, for example. They knew, Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama and everybody else that was championing Obamacare knew it wasn't going to work. There was no economic model that proved that this takeover of 1/5 of the economy was going to work. And so what they said is, okay, well, now we need single payer. And all Obamacare did was pave the way for single payer. If Obamacare was going to be the end-all, be-all, we wouldn't need single payer. If Obamacare was designed to work, we wouldn't need single payer. So it was never designed to work. It was just an incremental step towards socialism, towards the government managing all aspects of your decisions from your life to your death. And so Nancy Pelosi understands that. She's not going to get the Green New Deal today. And she's not going to get infanticide today. And she's not going to get open borders today. I mean, she's getting plenty of open borders. I mean, we got 12,000 people heading to our southern border. I guess the Democrats don't see that as an invasion. They simply see that as more power so that they can increase their representation in the Electoral College that they want to abolish.
Yeah, and that brings us to the obvious next discussion point. By the way, we're having a conversation with Megan Barth of ReaganBabe.com. We're a little over a week away from a potential shutdown. What are your thoughts, Megan? Are we going to see the shutdown, and who does it benefit or hurt the most?
Well, if we looked at the polling in the last shutdown, people were blaming President Trump. He was, only polling in the high 30s. Now he's polling in the high 40s after a State of the Union. So who does it hurt the most, the shutdown? Government workers that are not necessary. I don't like to hear about the expansion of government and how these government employees are so essential when they're literally deemed non-essential. I think that we have much too much of an addiction to government in general. I think plenty of these agencies could be replaced with private sector, and that includes the TSA, and that also includes air traffic controllers. I'm old enough to remember, as are you, that when the air traffic controllers went on the collective strike in Democrat-controlled cities, Reagan fired them. We can still do that. We can still do that. Those that have that much power to bring our country to a halt shouldn't have that much power and be protected by a government agency in order to wield that much power. So I think that I think what we're going to see is perhaps another avoidance of a government shutdown. But I think what Trump will do is he's already sending 4,000 more troops to the border. That's plenty of. We can send more troops to the border if we need to, and we can send the Army Corps of Engineers. Our troops are around the world building walls and schools and hospitals for other countries for their safety. Why can't they do the same for the homeland?
No, you're exactly right.
So you're exactly right. I think Trump will pull money out of the defense budget. Even though this $5 billion represents, basically a molecule on an ant's rear in perspective of size of the total budget. Right. I think it's like 0.00001% of the entire federal budget that the Democrats just can't seem to find. the money for.
Yep.
So the Democrats
exactly right.
don't want any. Yeah, the Democrats don't want any sort of barrier. They are the party of open borders. They are the party of illegal aliens, not immigrants. And I think Trump made that case very well.
I agree. All right, Megan, I don't know if this is a butt call or not. We're going to try to get Clark in here very quickly, but Clark, I'm going to tell you, I'm down to a handful of minutes. So if you have a quick question for Megan, let's try to keep it as brief as we can because I've only got about 4 minutes left. Hey, Clark, you there?
I am here, and last time apparently was a butt call because I was in surgery and I was listening on the iPad, and I was thinking, wow, Michael's talking to me, but I can't talk back. So, Ms. Barr, Michael and I had talked about this, I think, earlier this week with the Northam thing. We're seeing discord with the Democrats that we normally don't see. And, you know, their forte has always been that they would support one another no matter what was going on. And with Ocasio-Cortez and Nancy and with the Northam thing, are we starting to see fractionalization? Is this the Democrat Party as we know it breaking up? And if so, reckon what comes next? And I'll hang
Clark,
up.
I'm going to go ahead. All right, I appreciate it, Clark, very much. Megan, did you hear that?
Yeah, you know, I think there is a lot of internal battles for the heart and soul of the Democrat Party. They're really trying to fight of who's going to be more commie, who's going to be more communist, and who's going to be, you know, more radical. When you see, I was sickened to see all those women dressed in white on the Democrat side. I really don't understand what's wrong with women these days. If abortion was their sacred cow, well, what about infanticide? And so what you're seeing are these radical policies being passed in these radical areas of the country, whether that's the boroughs of New York or even in Virginia. You would never think that you would see infanticide. Now, it was voted down, but it's still there, right? And there's other governors of progressive, if you will, states also fighting for the right to kill children. So,
yeah, you're right.
I think what you're seeing is definitely a struggle for the identity of the Democrat Party, but it's not necessarily what the Democrat Party was under Kennedy. They're fighting to see who can be more radical and who can really debase this country's culture through its fundamental transformation into a totalitarian state. I mean, look at California. You know, California is so progressive, there's massive exodus. Even Cuomo is saying, oh, well, we don't want all the rich people to leave. Well, yeah, exactly, because how are you going to fund all these programs?
That's exactly right.
So you can't shoot the goose. And
no.
You know, so there are some Democrats that realize that socialism is has never been an economic model because they're seeing their budget dwindle because of all the rich, wealthy people that they're taxing to death leave.
Nope, you're exactly right.
But
Megan, unfortunately, we're out of time. I want to get you an opportunity to tell folks how they can learn more about you.
ReaganBabe.com, and if they want to listen to me every day, they can do so from 10 to noon Pacific time, which I think is noon to 2 your time, on KKFT 99.1 FM. They can Google that and find the website and listen to me live.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate you stopping by. Of course, you also want to check her out on Facebook and Stop the Scalpings STS.
Yes.
It's ReaganBabe.com. And I'm going to have to start putting about another 30 minutes into this particular speed date and not be so speedy with it because I want to spend some more time with you. But, Megan, thank you so much for popping by today. Excellent. That's Megan Barth of ReaganBabe.com. I'm going to wrap this puppy up. I want to remind you that we will be back with you live tomorrow at 8 o'clock here on the Heart of America Talk Radio Network. Please share the program. Tell somebody about the program and consider financially supporting the program so we can continue to bring you the absolute best in truthful Christian broadcasting right here on the Heart of America Talk Radio Network.